With the biggest? I don't know. I don't know.
You're right. It's probably just.
Yeah, I mean, if I would be more concerned if that guy's student reps.
Water.
driving.
Good for a town.
Adults town meeting is just using our facilities. It's a town committee. Town does.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, you're good. Thank you. All right, everybody. It is 7:01. So we are gonna call this regular meeting of the Board of Education to order and invite everyone to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Stephanie. No, it's all right. Take your time. All right. Good evening, everybody. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Motion. Thank you, Kim. Is there a second? I'll second. Seconded by Stacy. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Approval of consent agenda. There are 4 items this evening. The approval of our January 21st, 2025 Board of Education regular meeting minutes. The approval of a Reading for Education donation to Gildersleeve Elementary School in the amount of $29.38. The approval of Planet Aid donation to Brownstone Intermediate School in the amount of $28.25. And approval of Hopkins Pineda family donation to Portland High School girls basketball in the amount of $200. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Angela. Is there a second? I'll second. Seconded by Stacy. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Audience of citizens. Do we have anyone at this point in time who wishes to address the board? Anyone online? All right. There's a second opportunity for public comment towards the end of our agenda. We're going to move on to our Portland Public Schools Spotlight. And this evening we are very excited to welcome the Portland Pathways Transition Program.
Lynn, do you have that slide deck up? Slowly coming into focus.
That's right.
There we
It's
go.
chilly.
All right, we can see it. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome.
evening.
I am so proud to share with you tonight a little bit about our transition program here in Portland. For those of you who are newer to the board, our transition program serves young adults with disabilities, ages 18 to 22 here in Portland, with the goal of providing, training, services, and most importantly, real job skills and job experiences here in Portland, so that when they, are no longer eligible for services after age 22 through the public school system, they are ready to be wonderful members of our community and tackle the workforce and meet their transition goals. Unlike some of our other special ed programs, this is one of our newer programs, and it really has been a complete labor of love, like real blood, sweat, and tears from Ted Pinto, our transition coordinator, our job coaches, and our families and our community partners, many of whom are here tonight to support our program. So I'm just excited to share with you about the program as it is now, and also a little bit of our vision and our hopes and dreams for the program going forward. So without further ado, I will present Ted Pinto.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening. I'd like to thank the board and Dr. Britton for inviting us tonight. It's really exciting to be here with everybody to share our vision and our dream. As Sarah said, in our program, we educate high school post-grads that have not decided to take their diploma yet. And these students can stay with our program to the age of 22 to receive life skills and vocational help. They say it takes a village to raise a child. So I took my entire village with us tonight. And I wanted to introduce some very important people in my life that came here to support us and support our program on a daily basis. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce my family and say thank you to my wife Jamie, to my daughter Ella and Ava for being here. Um, you know, as the seasons change, thank you for always standing by my side. I would like to introduce two of the families that actually interviewed me on the first panel I was on. The Neto Biddy and Lopez family came here tonight to support me. Your families are definitely the pillars of this program, and thank you for your continued support, and especially for coming here tonight. Thanks. I'm joined by one of my wonderful force staff, Carol Seagrave. She's more of a job coach and an assistant teacher than a paraeducator. She helps teach lessons, like my other job coaches, goes into the field to learn every position my students work at, as well as being liaison between the community and our school system to represent us, our children. I'd also like to thank our other staff, Brianna Schwartz, our new staff, Tara Phelps, that joined us this year, and Leslie O'Rourke. Thank you to Kelsey List for helping facilitate clinical services from across town. Thank you to Olivia in central office and our drivers, Bill Sobieski and our new driver, Mike. We can't do this without you. Thank you to my supervisor, Sarah, for inviting me here tonight to speak with you. It's been wonderful to have the baton pass you and how seamless it's been since Dawn left, and just to hit the ground running with you. Also, I wanted to give some special thanks to our partners in the community that came tonight. One of the first businesses that took a shot on our program to accept our students in, Sarah Elliott's here in the Waverly Senior Center. I have some information I'd like to pass out a little bit. I was a little nervous. I forgot to give it to you guys at first.
It's okay.
About our lunch program that she helped facilitate. And I also like to give a big thanks to Portland's first selectman, Mike Pelton. We became friends last year through the program, and we couldn't figure out how to make what he does fit in our schedule. And it's really good to know that we have someone else backing us up. So thank you, Mike. So in preparation for tonight, I was inspired by the great basketball coach, Jim Valvano. My dad and I are college basketball fans, and he gave an epic speech in the SB Awards when he was telling the world that he had cancer. And in his inspirational speech, he talked about how do you go from where you're going to where you want to be? And that's what I wanted to discuss with you tonight. I thought everything starts with knowing where you have been. Last year was our inaugural year. It was our first year as a transition program in Portland, and we started in the basement of Brownstone Intermediate School. There they have a full kitchen setup, so we could do life skill training there. And this year, we actually had to move back to Portland High School. But at the end of last year, we only had 6 vocational jobs for our students that were in-house and in the community. And it was a good start. However, things move on, and this year started, and we had a new challenge because we had to learn a whole new classroom and become a part of a new community here at the high school. So in his speech, the next step of figuring out where you want to be is identifying where you are now. This is the exciting part. At the beginning of the year, we started with 13 brand new jobs. We went from 6 to 13. Big Lots did close nationwide, but we just absorbed another job that Sarah helped us with, a lady in town with Kidtivity. And I'm proud to announce that we're continuing to look for positions to give our students vocational experience. We added a new staff, like I said before, with Tara Phelps and multiple drivers. We actually held on to one new one named Mike. And this year we moved forward with a program that we started at the Waverly Senior Center last year, and Sarah gave it a formal name, calling the Generations in Harmony program, where we cater lunches to seniors every Tuesday and Thursday. You should come on down to see. It's really wonderful. Today we had 6 seniors that we served lunch to. One of my blind students played piano while and entertained while one of my students was learning how to operate in a kitchen safely and serve lunches and make people in the community happy. Um, that's just some of the work that we've done this year. One of my proudest moments was in December with Sarah. We one of the mothers of a program, she's the assistant director of one of Correct Strides program. It's a transition program just like us. But they're much different than us. They're older, they have a lot more money, and they're more robust. And one of the things I challenged myself to learn this year was to see where we really held up compared to other programs. And I'd let Sarah speak more about this if you would like, but I was really proud to see how much we matched up to them, looking at the analytics and all the things that we try to teach the kids, whether it's job interviewing skills, resume writing, cover letter writing, the job prep that we do, the work we do in the community to do vocational instruction and get them vocational experience. And even though we're a brand new program, I thought we matched them line for line. We don't have the amount of teachers they have. It's just me. We don't have the amount of administrators that they have. It's just Sarah and I running the program. But I thought line by line, we were either addressing one of the metrics that they've already hit, one of the standards that they already hit, or we have already planned on developing models of our own to meet those, such as data collection for students that are going to be leaving our program. So that was one of my proudest moments this year, because seeing that where we are at, we actually match up with a lot of other programs that are, like I said, older and more robust in the state. And the last part of what I'd like to talk about is, to complete this journey, you need to know where you want to go. And I wanted to share my dream with you that I shared with Dr. Britton earlier, to share with Dawn Davis, who is a previous special ed director, and something I got to share with the innovators. And excuse me, this is just near to my heart. So short term, we do have some concerns that we need addressed. First and foremost, we were placed back in a high school and we have 2 satellite classrooms, but they're not complete. We do need help finding a room that's complete for life skills instruction. At our room at the Biz, there's 2 kitchen sets there, but it only has a washer and doesn't have a dryer. We're looking for an area that has a dryer. When I was hired, I was told that you guys are going to try to purchase an apartment for us, but because of budget cuts, that got nixed pretty quickly into my tenure. And we're looking for something that's just more appropriate for them so we can teach them more life skills. Now, the kitchen setup down there is wonderful. However, it's still incomplete. And due to our schedule here at the high school, because my students are often at work, Dr. Britton tried to sneak in a couple of times this year to see us in action. And I was very happy that all my students were at work, busy, not in a room. So with that said, we definitely need help completing this program to get the appliances and the classroom space that they need. The next step that I'm asking the board for help with is we need help finding more businesses to join and partner with us. Last year we only had 6 positions. Some of them were in-house. Same thing as this year. We have 13 positions set up. Some of them are in-house here at the high school. Most of them are in the community, such as Sliceworks Pizza and Glastonbury. Thank you, Shannon. Shout out to you. Obviously, the Waverly Senior Center. We work at La Chic and East Hampton. Thank you, Debbie, at the Stonewall Farm in Middletown, as well as our other various vendors. However, I am not from this community. I'm from the Middletown area, and we need your help to connect with the business connections that you have so we can have more places offer us positions for vocational experiences for our students. My students don't get paid. They do this, they earn vocational experience for free, and it counts for the resume, but we need more places to work at. This year we made a great relationship with Ken at Adams. Big shout out to Ken. Thank you, Ken. And we started working at their grocery store. It took a long time to foster that and then get it to work. And we are looking for more opportunities like that, whether it's in the restaurant industry, landscaping industry, and everything else that you have ties to here in the community. Okay. Now comes the tough part. Last year before Dawn Davis left, I shared a vision with her, not knowing that she was gonna leave. And when Sarah came in, I shared it with her. And this year I shared it with Dr. Britton, shared it with Netta Beatties tonight. Diane, I wanted to share this with you. We have a dream, and our dream is to be like the other transition programs in the state of Connecticut. Most of the transition programs that are more robust than us have opened up businesses run by their school district. We have kids in such as Rocky Hill running a Dream Bakery, where their culinary program cooks their baked goods and hot and cold sandwiches, and there's transition students help serve the coffee in a cafeteria style restaurant. In West Hartford, they have a used bookstore run by special needs students in their transition program. Recently, we visited Nest. It's a special needs coffee shop in Deep River. Although they are not associated with the school district, it's a model we would like to chase. Our vision is to open up a used bookstore and coffee shop to compete with these regional programs. There's many positives to doing something like that. First of all, let us grow and chase our dream. We want to be like these other school districts. Dr. Britton had a great idea saying that why can't we be a special ed hub for other school districts east of the river? Having something like a special needs coffee shop run by my students, that's also part of a used bookstore, would interest students from other schools or districts too, and maybe that would be the selling point for them to join us. Here's an example. In Deep River at Nest, they charge students $1,500 for 20 hours of instruction of how to be part of their restaurant. We would offer them much more. That's one way we could grow our program to get other school systems to jump in or partner with us. And this isn't just a pipe dream. We've been working with and talking to many people, such as Sarah at the Waverly Senior Center. She's offered us space. I've had multiple conversations as early as last night when Mike Pelton called me. We had some long discussions with the executive director at Nest. Executive director at Nest offered us to give us for free his business plan or work with us to either be a satellite program for him to be maybe Nest North. And I think that's something I would like to chase with the Board of Education. We do have things that other school districts don't have. We do have brick and mortar here in the cafe downstairs, and that could be one place that we could start before we move forward to get a business. It's my dream to have a training site for kids. I would love to have a place like for Camus, where after they got trained, they would get paid to be a paid intern. Like I had a student teach my last year of school, like my sister had to do her clinical work as a nurse. And for our kids that are getting ready to graduate, they would get a paid internship then. That's my dream for these kids. And then if somehow we could figure out a model that was self-sustaining, we'd hire those kids. We've developed many of these partners, and I believe after my discussions with Dr. Britton, Sarah, with Mike Pelton, with Sarah at the Portland Senior Center, and with Bill at Nest, we have plenty of the providers and players that are ready to jump to the table and have this discussion and figure out how we can move forward. I don't have a timeline for this. I would like that by next spring we have something moving to have a soft opening. I've talked to the principal at Brownstone Intermediate School. They're already developing a baking program with their bridge program. And that could be just a jump off of them baking for us. And we bring those goods to maybe starting at the senior center and just bringing coffee to those seniors to brighten up their day. But we have many ideas of how to bring this forward. And our ultimate dream is to open up a business for these students like other school districts do. So I invite you to join us in this dream. We are dream chasers, but we have talked to a lot of people to set the groundwork to get some major players to the table to help us financially and to plan this out thoughtfully. So we have something meaningful for our kids when they leave. Do you have any questions for me before I stop shaking? Because I'm a little bit nervous.
I don't know how many students you have in total.
Right now, we have 7. We're losing 1. She's on board right now. Next year, we're gonna be gaining 2. So we're gonna be up to 8 students next year. Next year, I have 1 or 2 that are going to graduate, but we do have more in a pipeline coming through the life skills program here at the high school. Well, one of the things we need, like I said before, we need your help to find more businesses so we have more attractive openings in the menu of choices for our students that we serve. I would love to get into landscaping work. If anyone has any ties to the alchemy program behind Brownstone, that would be a great move because it's right there. And any other business relationships with personal friends or anything else that you have in town.
I have a quick question. When you said, you have a room for a washer, but not a dryer, is it because there's not space for a dryer or you just don't have a dryer?
No, the zoning, when the building was built, it was never, a ductwork was never built into it to vent a dryer properly.
Gotcha.
So if you do hang clothes up downstairs, they will mold.
Gotcha.
That was at Biz.
Yes.
Was that at
Yes,
Biz?
that was at Biz.
I was gonna say, cause next week I have a washer and dryer that are working that are going elsewhere that,
Yeah, we spoke with Bob Shea, facility director, and Nate there that runs a show at Biz. It just does not have the ductwork to put it in.
And there was also an issue with housing this program at Biz, that the state doesn't want transition programs in facilities with elementary facilities. Is that, am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, so the option is either to be at a high school or to be at a community site.
Right.
They can't be out in elementary schools. That was new as of this year.
Right.
Kind of threw us a curveball. We were anticipating that.
Yeah. Are there other questions for Ted or for Sarah?
You mentioned Ted, undertaking data collection, and I was curious if you've started data collection for students leaving the program, or if you're starting that up, what kinds of things are you measuring?
We have not started, we do data collection, not the data collection that we're looking to do. When we met with the people at Strive, they suggested a couple of things that we might be able to purchase. Some of those things we are doing, but it's just not formal enough. Sarah and I have been in discussion with Kelsey Lisk about a couple of things that are available to the district that we could use for more data. That is to answer your question even more, that's something that we're looking forward to implement by the end of the spring. So it's ready for next year because we do have students that are gonna be leaving.
Kim, were you,
Yeah,
did you have something?
I want to say your drive and your passion is amazing, yes,
Mhm.
and thank you so much for coming here tonight and bringing awareness to this, and I definitely think as a board, we do our best to try to come up with some ways to support you. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, but I want to direct all the things to the parents and kids because they're the reason why I'm here. Thank you. Any other questions?
Anything else?
Nice job.
No, Ted, thank you so much for coming and presenting. This is really exciting to see the growth. You know, we're only talking about 2 years. This is such a tremendous, not even a year and a half,
Year and a
we're a
half.
year and a half into this. And it's pretty incredible to see the impact that you're creating for our students. It's amazing.
It's an honor to be here and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, sounds like there's some exciting opportunities ahead.
For sure. Excellent. Well, thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Yeah, so families, guests, you are more than welcome to stay for the remainder of our meeting if you wish. You are not obligated to. Please, you know, don't feel like you need to if you don't want to.
Won't be a thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
And Charlotte, we don't need you right now
Go enjoy your night.
to get the norovirus.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I'm so
good luck,
sorry.
Sarah.
Good luck.
How that is brutal. We'll just Give it a minute to settle down and then we'll move on.
Spray the Lysol.
Yes.
Yes.
Bleach. It needs
Oh
to be
my
bleach.
gosh.
That's-
Really?
Yeah. And sanitizer.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. Unfortunately, our student representatives are otherwise occupied this evening, so we'll look forward to their next reports in March. We'll move to communications and updates, and Dr. Britton, your report's up first.
I do. All right. Couple of things. So I did include in your packet the latest enrollment report. Let's see, what are we at? 12-11. Last year we were at 12-18. Steady. No, not no large jumps one way or the other. Real quick, any questions about the enrollment report? All right, a couple other things I did include. You received a letter from Kate Brown, one of the special education teachers here at the high school, advocating to retain that special education position. Currently, it's out of the budget, but let's see where we land in the spring. And I have some good news tonight, potentially, that, you know, I'm certainly keeping a close eye on potential revenue sources. So we hear you, Kate. Thank you. And let's keep our fingers crossed, see where we land this year. But currently, we have to be transparent. And the position is not in the budget that was approved by the board and is moving forward.
Though, you know, we have a long way to
A
go
long way to go.
now and when the budget was passed in May. So.
For sure, long way to go. Okay, I did include in your packet, just to give you a sense, I promised I'd keep you updated, that we get from CASBO a look at area superintendent budget requests, and we're also starting to see board superintendent requests. Pretty amazing. It's Portland where we always are, which is right in the middle. It's fascinating how we always seem to, we like the 50th percentile. That's where we like to be. I'll just note that, you know, the percent increase at 4.97 that went forward, that's still below the average. You know, the average increase that we're seeing out of the superintendent's budget is 5.4. I think that reflects the times. It reflects the inflationary pressures we're in. It reflects the increase in special education costs that we're all dealing with. It reflects the increase in health insurances that we're seeing. You know, I honestly believe that 4.97% that you approved, I think, is a very fiscally conservative improvement budget. And I think that it shows up in the 50th percentile. You know, it's good for us to keep a look at what's going on statewide, where we are definitely right in the ballpark, I think. But I figured I would keep updating that with you and share it as CASBO continues to share that data with us. Any questions about that?
Was there supposed to be something in the packet, or were you just speaking to?
I
the
put it,
new-
it's in the Google Drive.
Okay,
So I updated it tonight. A couple new ones popped in. So
Okay.
if you jump in your Google Drive at home, you'll see it's there.
very good.
All right. So some not so good news. We took a look at the tennis courts. Facilities that we had in the emergency buildings and grounds meeting. The tennis courts are once again in very bad shape. The snow and ice and wind that we've had. There's some good and some bad news, right? The bad news is that they need to be repaired. The repairs that were done last year, some of them held, some of them did not. Those ones that were done last year, the company would be expected to repair those, but new cracks opened up. They would be unplayable in the condition, and you know, we need to jump on it now if we want to have a tennis season. And of course, I know the community was getting a lot of use out of the courts for pickleball. So Bob went out and got us some quotes. The quote that we got, and I just approved today, is $20,800. So right now we're taking that out of repairs. That's eating into a lot. Stephanie will give you her report tonight. We've got to do this, you know, so I did authorize it. The repairs are going to be done. Buildings and Grounds talked about this, and what we're going to do as we go through the rest of the year is potentially look to Fund 11 and maybe swap out some things that we've already done that would suit the things that the accountants allow us to use that fund for. But we need to get those courts repaired so that we can have a tennis season that otherwise, when the weather gets nice, the community can enjoy pickleball.
Charles, I
Yep.
think last year a similar question came up, and I'm curious where we landed on it because I don't recall of the town in some way supplementing that cost since the community does use that facility.
Yes, so last year, if you remember, we were in a deficit.
Yeah.
Right. And we last year we were, and Stephanie will give you good news tonight. My favorite words out of Stephanie's mouth, by the way, is Charles, we're good, right? Which I ask her every day. And when Stephanie's not biting her cuticles and is in a good mood and saying, Charles, we're good, I'm feeling good. So she'll give you her report tonight. Last year at this time, we were in a very bad place. If you remember, we were with some kids at one point in $1 million deficit, but we worked very hard to mitigate that. But at this time, we were probably what, about 350 deficit, and that's where we landed. We did speak with the town. They were aware of it. We did authorize that expenditure. We paid for it. It added to our deficit. But of course, we went back to the town, we went to the town meeting. It was right here at the end of June. I was biting my cuticles as the community came forward and voted to give us that supplemental, the repairs that were included in that supplement. This year, we're not in a deficit. You'll hear that from Stephanie tonight. We have the funding. I think we should do this now, not go to the town to ask for it. We have the funds, but it is going to be something that Stephanie and I are keeping a close eye on for the rest of the year, but I feel like we've got to. And Buildings and Grounds did support that. Did you want to add anything? But like,
Definitely, yeah.
In your buildings and grounds meeting, was there any conversation about whether just anticipating that every winter, up until the point that we're able to do a full replacement, there's likely going to be snow and there's going to be wind and there's going to be further damage. Was there any conversation in buildings and grounds, or is there any conversation to be had about whether there's anything we could do preventatively or proactively to try and make sure that what we have doesn't deteriorate further?
so,
I asked Charles on the phone, like, did they make something like they put on swimming pools where you could like pull it up over the tennis courts? Does that exist? Or is there something else we're not aware of that would allow us to protect our surface?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll check with Bob. I said, it sounds like $1
I
million
don't
idea.
know if
Like,
it exists, but I'm
there
curious.
may be like a covering or something that we can put on it to help prevent that. I think it's something to look into. Long term, I think we have to recognize that those tennis courts, like the track, need to be re-foundationed. They need that tension, that post-tension thing, because it's built on the same fill that the track was. It's not an inexpensive proposition. It's 500,000. I think it was more than that. It's a lot of money. But it is something that either we're going to need to start saving up for, or look to state bonding, or as we go through this spring with the work of the strategic planning committee, look to the future. Short term, how we might find coverings or do other things. Eventually, these patches aren't going to work anymore. How we might get as much usage out of them as we can before we got to that point, but pretty soon they're going to be like the track. We can't do this for much longer.
Did Bob give you a sense of, can we patch it for another couple years, 5 years? Do we know what the realistically what the life of this is?
He did not.
Okay.
Wish you were here.
Yeah.
But he's got the professionals taking a look at it, and let me get that information for you for
Okay, sounds good. I mean, it sounds like an investment that we have to make right now. These are tennis courts, not only that are used by our students, but are heavily used by the community. They're used by lots of folks in the warmer months, and also by the summer camps, correct?
Yep. Yep. And they're lined now for the pickleball. They got the pickleball nets. The lights are up there. They're well used. I mean, the track and the tennis court, every summer, beautiful summer night, come up here and people are playing tennis, pickleball, or on the track. It would be a shame if it became something our students couldn't use, but also it's a community. Yeah. It's a community resource. So.
Just two things. I already talked to some people about this, and I got two questions asked of me. One you answered was, didn't we pay for something last year? So we need to be prepared for that.
Right.
Be asked of us. These are new crack.
Yep.
The second thing is, do we have any kind of an estimate for the real fix that's needed? Because the concern is, hey, we thought the track was 500,000 and ended up being 1.4 million.
Right.
How did we get so far off? Was it just inflation, or we were that far off on what we thought it needed?
It was a little bit of both. It was a combination of far off on what we needed. It needed this special tension to make it last longer, and inflation.
It was also, I mean, Stacy just said it was a timing issue. When they got the initial quotes, it was 700,000. By the time they got around to completing the work, it was 1.2 million.
Yeah.
And that was a function of 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years.
And then that may be part of the argument that says, hey, the estimate on it was up,
Mhm.
is 700,000, but it could be in 3 years, it could be 1 million.
That's
a
right.
million one. So maybe we want to try to do this quicker, sooner rather than later.
Is this a, I mean, like our track, is this a kind of project that would be worth speaking with our state representatives about, you know,
Absolutely,
talk to Christie and talk to
Yep.
them about whether there's a possibility for state bonding
for
to
sure.
support of this kind of improvement?
And Charles, did you see the grant
And
information?
I got you and I appreciate that. All good leads. Let me go track them down. I
Yeah.
think so. We'll invest the 20,000 now and I
Yeah.
think it's time to start getting a game, which involves all of those things. So
Yeah, agreed.
we're on it and I'll keep you posted.
What is Fund 11?
Want to explain? Steph?
Maintenance fund. So at the end, well, we haven't in the last 2 years because we haven't had enough money. But usually typically at the end of the year, we try to transfer up to about $100,000 into this maintenance fund and we can use it for emergency repairs, to replace new things. It can't be used as a maintenance account. It can't be used, that should be in our withheld in our budget. So like for the air handling systems, if we can't get capital, we can use Fund 11 because they'd be putting new ones in. And or emergency repairs. So it's only funding available if we transfer it in. The town gives us about $41,000 or $2,000 a year into the account, and the rest of it is money that we transfer in. And like I said, we haven't in the last 2 years, but during COVID, I think we did 2 years of 100,000 each. So that's kind of kept us afloat. And then, you know, as the year goes on, you know, we flip flop some stuff in there, we move it out if we see if we have a little money left over, just to keep that knowing we can't transfer in every year. So,
Yeah, it's really like if a boiler, blows,
right,
right? And, you know, if
like a
something
contingency almost.
catastrophic breaks, it's nice to have that there. We don't have a carry surplus, right? We don't have a fund balance. We have that, but it can only be used for certain things. The tennis court repairs couldn't be used for Fund 11, but we have replaced some things this year that we might be able to if we got Tom's permission, you know, checked with the auditors and made sure that, you know, as we purchase, what we're like, chiller, what was the thing we replaced?
Found about $25,000 worth of stuff that were new that we put in our repairs and maintenance account that we could potentially put that into, charge it to Fund 11 to keep the tennis courts in here. We just couldn't use Fund 11 for the tennis courts because it's not in the building. It has to be attached to the building. The tennis courts are outside.
And the vendor that we used, are we using the same vendor who fixed them last year?
Yeah, they
And
will,
if they cracked again,
so the ones that
Should
they
we
patched
look for a
last year
different
that
vendor?
didn't hold, they'll fix those first.
yeah,
I mean, those are like under their warranty, but these are new cracks. These are ones that they didn't fix because the cracks weren't there. That they
well,
would
maybe
say,
we should find a different vendor to fix the new cracks and just have them repair those cracks. Just, I mean, if they didn't even last a year, why are we using the same vendor again? And I don't know that, I wouldn't, if I had maintenance at my house and something broke, okay, if it's under warranty, let them fix it. But I'd probably use a different vendor if,
yeah, I think in fairness, the majority of what they did help. There's only one little part that kind of flapped up that they've done, and that, you know, that's fire. These are new cracks that would require new investment. The majority of what they did has helped.
okay,
So I wouldn't say the work they did was shoddy or insufficient. They're old tennis courts and
okay.
they're crumbling because they're built on fill. And these new cracks are going to come up. Really what they're doing is just kind of putting a layer patch on top of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it was, you know, a lack of quality craftsmanship or a poor job they did. It's just they're old tennis courts and they're built on a crummy foundation, and anything you do on the surface is not going to hold forever when your foundation is sinking.
Okay.
That's gonna have pretty much matches.
If you don't have much to work with, it's hard
Yeah.
to.
I get it now. Thank you.
So that's some of the not so good news, but all these are great ideas, and it's going to be a bigger conversation because it's a big ticket item. Okay, a few other things I just want to quickly run through. So the past week or so, oh my gosh, it's been like drinking from a fire hose to keep up with a lot. Like a lot of changes are happening all around us. And I did just include some things for your consideration. I know that you're reading in the news or you may be seeing communications from area superintendents. There's a lot of concern about undocumented students and how they might be treated if INS agents showed up. I couldn't see that circumstance ever happened before, I think, and it's unlikely to happen here, but I did share with you some of the guidance released by the Connecticut State Department of Education and the ACLU, reminding us of obligations. Of course, we don't ask students about their immigration status. We take every student. We are the epitome of the Statue of Liberties, public schools. We will take all of you, as long as you're a resident. I am attending a webinar from Shipman and Goodwin tomorrow morning, to see what their advice is. At this point, I'm just monitoring, right? It's very complicated for all of us because what don't we ever want to do? We don't ever want to be obstructed. I mean, I'm not going to ever put our staff in a position where, if somebody has a legal warrant or right to do the things, we're not going to stand in their way. That would put people in legal jeopardy. I am concerned about that. At the same time, I would just ask if INS agents or any, officer of whatever law enforcement agency could do their work in a ways that doesn't bring schools into it, that would be very helpful, right? Schools are sanctuaries in the sense that we create a community here. We want our kids to feel safe. Right? And, anytime police officers are here, if they're not here because we're asking them for their help, but doing their business, it's very disruptive, right? That if these folks could do their work outside of school hours, it would be deeply appreciated. That's all I want to say to that. It's a tough position. We're never not going to follow the law, right? Even in those laws, they're the laws, right? That's our obligation. But our superseding obligation is to make sure our students feel safe. So I feel like we're being put in a very uncomfortable position, schools. I don't have all the answers, just that it's an issue. It hasn't cropped up in Portland. Hopefully it doesn't, but we're very much aware and going to try to be gathering information and making the right decisions as things move. But ask if there are any questions about that or thoughts or feedback.
My only question really is, the guidance that you included here from the Connecticut State Department of Education, it is very much in line with a statement or something put out by Shipman and Goodwin that I read. And it's really factual and going through rights and responsibilities of school districts. And so I guess my only question is about how we will help not only the administrative team, but anybody, any of our administrative assistants who work in our front offices who might be, worrying or thinking about this. How do we make sure everybody feels prepared and has the information at their fingertips that they might need, even though they very likely would never actually need it, just to make sure everybody feels calm and okay and like they have the information that they need.
Yeah, so I shared the guidance with them. Tomorrow morning at 9, I'm in this conference call with Shipman and Goodwin. And then I'm meeting with the leadership team at 12:30. I will brief them after that. Generally, what I've said, though, is any law enforcement agent, no matter what agency they're with, if they show up at school, call me. Right? What I would do is coordinate with local law enforcement, and I would call Rebecca, right? And I would get Rebecca on the phone, and Rebecca would need to have conversations and guide us in that interaction. Let's just hope it doesn't happen. I mean, that I could definitely see the kind of disruption and upset something like that would cause to our teachers and students and families. And I hope we don't have to deal with it, but we need to be prepared. So I have communicated the guidance that we've received so far, and we'll be communicating more as I learn more about how Shipman and Goodwin are advising.
Will you put in writing to your administrators what you learned from the conference call tomorrow?
Yep.
So then can you include the board in what you'll be communicating to your administrators?
Happy to share
So we know.
anything I get. So, and again, I think it's important for everybody to be completely transparent with
page.
how we're going to respond to these things.
Okay.
Happy to do that. Any questions? Okay, a couple other ones. One I included in here was for May. It was a communication from CAPS about some legislative sessions that are coming up that I know Meg is very active in CABE and would otherwise go to. I know she's in Washington right now and put that one in there mostly for her because I know she has the time and is available to go advocate for our needs. Stephanie just shared with me today, very interesting. There is another bill being considered in Hartford now that would fund school breakfast and lunches next year. We're going to watch that one very carefully. I did put that in here as a communication. Also, I included a WTNH news report today. I was very happy to see Governor Lamont has included in his budget or is going to include $54 million for special education funding. Very happy to see that. Hopefully that is, I read that article and I'm reading those communications. It looks like that would go both towards the excess cost grant, fully fund that, or at least fund it at the level you're telling us you're going to fund it and don't pull the rug out from under us in January.
Yeah.
And also a helping districts build in-house programs like the transition program so that we don't have to place students. Believe me, when that funding becomes available, we will jump all over that because I think we've already made that commitment. But there are other ones that we might be able to build in-house to maybe potentially bring some of those 22 students back.
So my question is about that piece specifically. Do we, I mean, and obviously it's early days.
The early days, yeah.
But do we have a feeling about whether he's referring to funding for building new programs or funding to support programs that districts have created that help to keep our students in our district where we want them? I mean, those programs need support too.
Both, hopefully.
It's like point of advocacy, perhaps.
100%. Yeah, it's a great question. We do have, as you know, ABA, RISE, LEAP, Harbor, Bridge, Transition, Life Skills programs. Certainly any funding to help us maintain those programs would be deeply appreciated. But if they have to be new programs, well, those involve paraprofessionals and teachers and transportation and places to run them. I know Sarah would be very interested in what that looks like. More to come, but very happy to hear that our pleas have been heard, and it looks like 54 million is at least the initial proposal. It's something we should all keep a very close eye.
Yeah.
Also I included in there, it was a very strange week where at one point we had heard federal funding was going to be frozen. And Stephanie and I had a little panic attack. As you know, we receive federal funds in the form of IDEA, Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV grant. But then we also receive federal funding as part of our school lunch program. We jumped on it that morning. It appears that the title funding and the IDEA funding has already been distributed, right? So that wouldn't have been subject to the freeze unless it was somehow clawed back, right? But what could have been frozen was the about $25,000 a month that we get to help subsidize free and reduced price meals for our students. If that were cut, we would be running a deficit or would be in a position where we're no longer participating in that program and charging full freight for free and reduced price meals. That's not something that we were hoping to have to deal with in the middle of the year. Fortunately, as you see in this press release here, it seems like a federal judge has stopped that from happening, but there was definitely some panic moments there. So I just wanted to share that with you, but as of right now, we still have access to the funds that we need to run our programs as they're currently budgeted. Any questions on that? Okay, and then the last one, just today, I feel like every day of board meetings, we get these communications. Sarah received this Dear Colleagues letter from the Office of Civil Rights. And it appears that the expectation is now that we revert, as you know, about a month ago, you approved an update to the Title IX policy that had different standards for investigation, a different investigatory model, and different categories of students who were protected. Based on this letter that I've read from the acting director of the Office of Civil Rights, it is the expectation based on that directive and more recent court rulings that we go back to the 2020 Title IX procedures. So February 20th, the policy committee is meeting. We'll discuss it. I didn't put it on the agenda tonight. I feel like we need to follow our regular process, which involves policy discussing it, considering the implications, Sarah being involved in it, and then likely it will be as at least a first read on our next board agenda. But I wanted you to see that communication, sort of give you a preview of what we need to do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it may be, I mean, based on the wording in this, Charles, and because they make it sound like, you know, if you're in the middle of an investigation, stop what you're doing and revisit the 2020 guidance and make sure you're in compliance with that, even if you're mid-investigation. So while we don't have this in place until March, it may be, this may be a policy that after the policy committee vets it, we would ask the board to waive our first reading and take action in our first March meeting, to make sure our policy is in compliance with what is being asked in practice.
Right. That's all I have. And then just one side comment on that Title IX policy, that the language in there about transgender students, I'm a little disappointed with. We are going to continue to support our transgender students and make sure that they are not subject to any type of harassment, regardless of what the law tells us that we should or shouldn't. That's my position on that. I believe those students need that level of support, and I don't know if that's an act of civil disobedience, but I think it's a commitment we need to make to our kids.
Changing topics, do you guys have an update on the health insurance quotes? Is that something you were gonna cover, Steph?
Coming soon.
Okay.
We have close. We have some where we changed the budget to 9%,
10, we're down from 13 to 10.
13 to 10. I think it was 9.9.
Confusing last year with this year.
Yeah.
I mean, this year with next year.
We're close.
Okay.
Yeah, we're opening
Yeah,
bids and
10 right now.
We're
There
at
was a
10.
couple that hadn't submitted yet. And then they were asking a couple questions about if we switch the dental over to, we get a, another % off or something.
Okay,
So it's still, we haven't heard the final.
okay, but somewhere in the ballpark of what we budgeted, what you
Hopefully,
estimated.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Wow,
All right,
that's all I
that
have.
was a lot.
Yep, that's-
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Charles about any of that or move on? What a lot. Oh, all right, thank you, Charles. We're gonna move on to Stephanie's update.
So as of this report, I will say we're about $7,700 to the good. And a part of that is, Charles, you didn't mention it, and I don't know if you even saw my email, but we got the mental health grant.
Yes,
I
I
mean,
did.
I'm sorry, the
So,
McKinney
the
Vento grant.
Vento grant, yeah.
So we get $10,000, which will help offset some of the homeless transportation that we're paying. So when I add that 10,000 in, I get us to 7,700 right now, give or take. But that also does include the tennis courts in there as well. So, it moves every day. I play around with, I pull back from some people and I say, you only have this much now to spend just to keep us afloat. There's no freeze or anything as of right now. I don't feel the need to do that. But so far where we're at, I'm happy with the 7,700.
Just barely though. It's still early.
It's still early.
February.
Well, I have an email into the state because I still don't know our final number for open choice. Because we always get a little bit extra depending on, how many students in each class we have.
Mhm.
So that might be a little bump there. I'm waiting to hear back from that. The Harvard billing, we're still kind of analyzing that, talking to them, making sure we're accounting for everything that we can. So we're good. Don't worry, Charles.
I know,
Okay.
that's, you honestly bite your cuticles on me.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I say it every time, we're 7 months in. So 58% of the year is done, which means we have 42%. If you look down the percentage columns, if we're around 42, we're good. The supply lines, the textbooks lines, those will be the ones that are a little bit lower because those have all been front loaded and spent, a majority in the summertime. But I will say, if you look at transportation,
Bless you.
we have, some savings in transportation. The medical line, there's no encumbrances in here. You can't see it, but we have about $200,000 in savings for the medical insurance. So that's all helping.
Amazing. Yeah.
But if anybody has any specific questions about a line item.
There's, on the second page, there's a few negatives there, the 90.97 minus 474 and minus that 67 or 87.
Yep, so.
Can you just talk to those three?
Yep, so the 474, that's the van still. We still didn't do any transfers yet. So that's the van that we purchased. The one below it, the hardware, the 87 or the negative 87. So the tech department has a supply budget and a hardware budget, and we try to fit into the categories of what they really truly should be in. So they had 15,000 budgeted in supplies and only 5,000 or in hardware, only 6,500 in hardware. So we kind of, I guess, net them. So yes, they may have overspent by $5,600 in hardware, but their supply line
Be underspent.
is underspent, but you can't see that because the 61011 supply line is full of everybody. The hardware is just stands out more because they're really, IT department's really the only department that uses that line, so that's why that one stands out. But it does net with the supplies. And then the -90, that's the special ed, that's the tuition. So if you really look at it, it's the -834, but if you look at the top number, the 118 and the 82, those net to 633, because that's the savings that we have. So we're about 633, 599 over budget. But then remember, excess cost will be applied to that, which is 390,000. So, and then I actually was just doing that when Charles was talking. If you take the excess cost and divide it by what's there, we're at about 61%, and our excess cost is 59 point whatever we were getting. So it's pretty close. But the surplus from the transportation also helps that too,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does. Thank you.
Can I ask Stephanie, as
You're
you're
starting to get it.
It takes
That
a while.
actually made
It
sense.
takes a while, doesn't it, Angela? As you're projecting forward, I know that we've had a few outplacements that Sarah spoke to last time that are in sort of in limbo. They haven't actually been placed, but they're anticipated. So she included those in the last set of numbers that we saw in January. So I guess I'm wondering, as you project forward to the end of the year and you're doing this magic that you do, are you factoring in the potential costs for these students at the point that their outplacements fall into line?
Yep, so we have one we finally got a placement for them. We know they're going in March, so I had Olivia put a dummy PO in
Mhm.
for what we think. Because we know the program they're going to, depending on the transportation, so I said, put it in for the most it would be. It's not
Okay.
showing here because we did it like today,
Yeah.
but it's in my projection, so I have that accounted for, and then the two that are in limbo still, I projected. I mean, really with people, having the PPT and finding a place, maybe March. So we counted the number of days, so I anticipated about 45,000 per student, so that is included in the projections.
Okay. Thanks for explaining that.
I have a question, and I know don't ever pick on small numbers. Electricity being down 1.9. How can you be that good to already predict it's gonna be down $1,900?
I'm sure there'll be savings there.
Okay,
So, because we PO, we encumber the full amount from what we think it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And, again, each year I kind of cut it, that's one of my ones that I kind of cut into when we need to make cuts. But I don't foresee us, the bills have been pretty good.
okay.
I don't foresee us using that whole 190.
And the solar's been helpful, and the new
The
lighting
lighting,
that Bob has put in, like here, we're seeing good savings.
So second thought, because I just did this, I don't know how the school works. But on my personal bill, you get that supplier charge of like 0.15 from Eversource, but if you go to one of these other companies, like Constellation or something like that, you can get down to 0.9 or 0.1. I'm gonna save $40 a month by doing that. That's almost 16%.
we use NG, we already do that.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying, I'm
Yeah.
Yeah, we already do it.
overturning every
Yep,
stone.
yep.
The hardest part, the biggest part of it, in all honesty, is the loans we're paying back for the energy saving. So once those are done, then we're gonna be a huge savings.
Like
And I
on the
think-
solar panel?
No.
That was related to some of the
The
lighting
lighting.
upgrades that we
Oh,
made,
okay.
and it was a short-term loan, only a couple of years, right?
I think I have to go back and look. I think there's maybe a year left in that. So once though, and even with that, they're still less than what they were last year. But once those go away, then we should see some good savings.
Yeah, that's great.
Which then who knows where we'll be at that
I
point.
know. Got good people working on all this.
Gas is a little high right now, CNG, but it's been really cold. So that's kind of to be expected.
Like I do at home, turn the thermostat on.
Wear a sweater.
Very too many calls Bob would get.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Stephanie about this report? No. Stephanie, thank you so much. It's nice to have a little bit of good news. All right, we'll move on to new business. The first item under new business is the open choice seats for 2025-2026.
Okay, so it's that time of year again,
Mhm.
where the state has asked for what the seats that we're gonna declare. I did include the seat declaration form. I'm asking for the board to approve opening 10 kindergarten seats and 3 first grade seats. As you know, it's generally best that we start as early as possible. If we never do, like, we just don't get 10 kindergarten students, we usually will get 3 to 5. But if we open 10, we could fill it 10,
Mhm.
but I feel comfortable with that number. And the 3 first grade seats, which would be new, would get us to 5. Help me out, Tricia. We have current 2 get us to 5 students. So if they all filled, there would be up to 15 total at Valley View. And again, if we got all of those filled, we would be at 60 what? 69, but we budgeted for 57. So anything above 57 works to our budget advantage, and below 57 doesn't. But I feel like that 10 kindergarten and the 3 potential first grade would keep us in a good place.
Can I ask just a quick question, Charles, because this form asks us to declare these numbers for open choice enrollment are based on our October enrollments, that 58 number. We lost 5 students. I think you said one family moved out of district, so we're down to 53 students currently. So I think we have to document those 5 students because that takes our total down.
Which is that, are those the students who left and moved to New Britain, are they reflected in these numbers, or did these numbers include them as students here? It's a good catch.
No, so when I send this back to them, I put those at -6 out.
Oh, okay.
So that's 5 fewer students in the totals, reflected in the totals here. Just so we're being transparent about that.
That's where my confusion was. We got 58 and 56, but yet we're at 53, so I don't
The
know how the math.
56 is because two students are graduating this year, so
Oh.
projecting to next year,
Oh,
that's
okay.
56. But I mean, I don't know what grades those 5 children were, so I don't know, if any. But it does, in my mind, looking at current enrollment, that would bring us down to, potentially we're opening 64 seats instead of 69.
Gotcha, yeah.
And is that 64 number seems a little bit lower than what we've opened in the past couple of years. Like last year, didn't we open?
Yeah,
I
we
think we've
69 or
opened some at like
70.
middle school as well, if memory serves, in case siblings.
For
wanted to come.
siblings.
right. Well, we do have that.
And the number is still there. So
Okay,
even though we lost 5, it's still in that number. So on the
projected.
first page, yeah,
Uh-huh.
they moved over.
they moved over.
As if they were still here.
So let's say if one was in 3rd grade, it's 7, and it's projected in 4th grade 7. So we still maintain those seats.
So we would open a seat in that grade
We
even,
wouldn't open it, it's
Right.
maintained. So there would be 7 seats available.
So new students potentially could
so this-
come and fill those.
okay,
So only 10 new seats in kindergarten
right,
and 3 new seats in first.
In first grade.
But we're still maintaining the number of seats that we offer.
available in the rest of the grades.
Even though those students are here, we're still maintaining this.
Would we
Not
want to
everybody.
look at which grades we're making those seats available in?
It wouldn't matter because when they send it out to the parents, it still shows that we have 7 seats available.
Well, I think, let's clarify that, because I think we had to fill those in on this part, but for the board tonight, I think what we're saying is, we're asking your permission to open 10, like in terms of new seats.
Mhm.
That's really what we're talking about. We're asking
Okay,
to open 10 new seats in kindergarten and 3 new seats in
Yeah.
first grade, and then the rest would be either maintained or we would not have those seats filled. Does that make sense, Tricia? Sure.
You can have a new student in
Mhm.
that slot that somebody left in, but it's not a new seat. They're not filling an additional seat. They're always maintaining that number. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
let's look into that further. I fully support opening 10 kindergarten seats and 3 in first grade. That makes a lot of sense. I also support that we've historically allowed siblings, if we are bringing in a new kindergartner and they've got a fourth grade sibling who's really excited to come to Portland, I think that's wonderful that we can support that. If we have class sizes that can support that. But I do want to just make sure that with the reduction of those 5 students, that we are opening seats appropriately so that we can maintain that target around 5%. So it'd be good to just kind of confirm that.
Yeah, we'll, as soon as we get your approval, we'll make sure the form reflects that and that's
It
communicated to.
does, that's why the
Okay.
number is still the 50. It's still the 56.
Yeah.
Because we have 53, but they're saying we're maintaining those 56 spots.
And it may be
And
new,
it's not
new
because
students.
it's new. If you wanted 5 new, which lost 5, it
Yeah.
would be 56 plus 5. We made that mistake last.
Yes, we did. make
Yeah.
that.
And then there was too many. Then what? We have.
Okay.
So this says 56,
Yeah.
right? Maintain seats. We really don't have 56. We have 53.
Mhm.
But we're
Children.
still holding
Children in those
those
seats.
spots.
Right.
It's like chairs and butts,
Yes. That's a good one.
right?
We don't get one of the buttons in that.
That's right, but the chair is there.
Right.
Good way to look at it, yes.
Okay.
None of the other grades have more, the biggest number I see is 8. Why are we opening up 10? For kindergarten, why are we going so high?
Well, we usually open that number, but we rarely get 10.
We've never gotten,
Yeah.
we open them, but we get. Like you typically,
3 to 5.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
Last year it was 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Last year
but
it
you
was
had
2.
10 as well? Oh, you did, okay. Okay.
other questions, questions about any more about that?
If we did get 10, only just hypothetically,
Mhm.
considering supposedly we have a lot of more people in the communities now, would we be ready for it? Are we able to absorb 10?
So it's a really good question. You remember last year with kindergarten's always kind of like, we don't know, right? We don't know because we haven't opened registration yet and the laws changed and students have to be 5 or,
Yeah,
if
that
they're within
too,
6
right.
months, pass an assessment and we'll see, that the number we have 5 teachers budgeted for kindergarten. If we get above 90, we would need a 6th. But if we got 10 open choice kindergarten students at $10,000 a student, we would have, that could pay for the additional section that we would need to support
Okay.
them and however many of our current enrollment.
Okay,
So, that's the thing. We are budgeting for 57. If we got 10 kindergarten open choice students, we would be at 62, right? And then, well, we got 60. Math, but we would have the funding that follows them, which we could then use to hire master step for new kindergarten.
okay.
Sense.
Yeah, sure. All right, if there are not additional questions, then, I believe we would need a motion to approve the proposal to open 10 kindergarten seats and 3 first grade seats for our open choice program.
I'll make a motion to approve opening 10 kindergarten seats and 3 first grade seats for open choice for next year.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Kim. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right. The next item under new business is our superintendent of schools mid-year review, which will be discussed in executive session. So we'll move on to old business. I don't believe we have any this evening. So we're gonna move along to committee reports. And I'll just really quickly tell you curriculum is meeting next week, 2 weeks. Curriculum is meeting on the 18th or 19th,
19th.
and policy is meeting on the 20th, and personnel is meeting tomorrow.
Correct.
So we're gonna move on then to buildings and grounds. Steve, do you want to give us an update? Did you just discuss the tennis courts or
Tennis
was there
courts
something else?
first.
Okay, so we covered that. All right, So we'll move on to our correct liaisons not here this evening. What about the Board of Selectmen?
3 quick things. They continue to do a lot of, I want to use the word shuffling, but they've got a lot of people that committees and commissions have moved around because of, people resigning and moving up to a different position, like, Tim and us type of thing. So they're still doing some of that. Always looking for volunteers, different committees.
Yeah.
Second thing is there's a possibility they're gonna move the meetings back to the library. That was raised and that seems like it's more than likely gonna happen.
Good.
The last thing I was gonna mention is just that there was one of the committee members of the strategic committee during public comment made a comment, very outspoken about the one of the replacements for the committee being not from the Board of Education, because feels that it should be more representative of the community, and it's very heavily weighted toward the Board of Education. So, and I just wanted to share that and take it for what it's worth.
Thank you. Any questions for Dave? All right, I
Did
think,
everybody see the write-up in the River East?
yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
so that
we
was
did.
pretty interesting too.
We're gonna probably hear about your services next time. Equity and inclusion.
We're scheduled to meet in March.
In March, okay. And I'll just put out again that we do have a second space for a Board of Ed representative on the Equity and Inclusion Coalition. So if anyone has time or interest, let me know.
And jumping on that, it's a meeting every other month for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's about the sum of the commitment.
Yeah.
And you get to meet with students as well as faculty. So, and it's
Which is great.
yeah, I enjoy it.
And then Strategic Capital Improvements Committee. We did meet 2 weeks ago. Mike Serrano from Friar did a good job walking us through a presentation about the kind of needs and challenges at our 3 elementary schools, and did a very thorough job taking us through. And frankly, none of this was new to those of us who've been, breathing this for several years. But this is a fresh committee and there's, fresh eyes on it. And so it was good to be reminded of some of the specific challenges at these sites. Including, I need to ask Mike more about this at our next meeting. He referenced, that some of the challenge with capital improvements specifically, and I think what he said about it is that capital improvements are a maintenance plan, right? They're not really meant to be done in a 20 years deferred kind of way all at once. It's a maintenance plan that's done over time. And so one of the challenges with trying to do capital improvements only all at once at this kind of scale is that if you pass a threshold of more than 50% of the building being impacted, then you trigger you trigger a lot of all the code violations that you might currently have, or code issues that exist in old buildings, then need to be handled. And so then you're kind of all in, and you may as well take it to the next level to do, get more bang for your buck. So I want to make sure I really understand that. I want to ask him to speak more to that at his meeting, at our meeting Thursday. Because there was a little bit of back and forth about that. And well, if HVAC is throughout your whole building, does it actually represent 50% of your building or not? So I think that, I want to make sure that we really get a handle on that. But I thought that the meeting was productive and everything he shared with us was useful to be reminded of all of that. And he will be at our meeting on Thursday, hopefully with updated numbers, costs for various configurations of Valley View, Gildersleeve, and Biz if we were to consolidate 2 schools. So there should be more to share at our next meeting in March. Any questions about that?
It's the Thursday meeting at 6 or 7.
It's at 6
6.
here. Yeah.
And I've been watching them online.
Good.
Or through Zoom or YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's very informative. I find it interesting that all the different codes for buildings, and I think there are certain people on the committee that think that they can just do easy peasy fixes, but that's not how it works. There's a lot of code standards that have to be kept when you're doing a school renovation, as opposed to it just being a building that you might be putting offices in. So I think there's a lot of eye-opening that I'm hearing amongst the committee, that it's not as easy to get things done than they had anticipated.
Yeah, and the point you're making, Angela, is well made, that this is why it's so valuable to us to have Mike Serrano there with all of his expertise in school construction. He's been involved for years and years and years
Mhm.
across the state. So
Yeah.
he's got a deep understanding of what the requirements are, of us by the state code, all the code stuff. He really does have a deep understanding of
does.
that and can help kind of guide us.
Yeah, and he's impartial, which helps to keep the meeting moving forward and not get bogged down into the weeds.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, any other questions about any of that? Well, hopefully I'll have more for you in March. I would say audience is citizens, but we have our sole citizen here with us. Oh, this is an audience of citizen. Do we have anyone online who wishes to address the board?
Two currently watching, but no one has responded to our message.
Okay, all right, it's a quiet night. Well, then let's move on to Board of Education member comments. I can start over here, Angela.
I'd like to thank Ted Pinto for coming in. Hearing about the Pathways Transition Program was very informative. And I hope that there are things that we can do as a board to assist in that very important community of people in our town. Oh, I had one question for Kim. How did we do in the wrestling matches this weekend? Or the past 2 weekends? Were they-
Yeah, not bad.
That's
bad.
good. That's great.
Yep.
That's good.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Angela.
Yeah, I just echo Angela's comments and appreciating the transition program, staff and students coming tonight and looking forward to seeing how we can support that program going forward.
Yeah, I echo it as well. I don't know if it's eligible for any Wheeler funds or any of the other stuff.
That's a good question.
You know,
Gildersleeve.
or Gildersleeve, I mean, I get them confused.
I think his full name is Gildersleeve Wheeler.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you're both
Yeah.
correct.
And then lastly, a public service announcement, and this popped in my head. Friday is the Starbucks opening, not for that. But if you go down 66 like I do, that green has always been green. It is no longer going to be green all the time. So be aware. It's gonna be mocha. Yes.
Oh, yum.
That's funny. Stacy.
I echo as well. I think the transitions program got, kind of our wheels turning about other opportunities. I think sometimes we take for granted the connections that we have in the community and how, sometimes our voices collectively can help to stimulate people, open up new opportunities. So
I agree with Angela and Stacy about that, and really think between all of us, hopefully we can even affect some small change and support up to that program. Keep moving it forward. I'm very impressed.
Agreed. The only thing I wanted to mention is that CABE is running a webinar on Thursday this week, Thursday the 6th, specifically about the governor's budget. It's, I think, an hour long at noon on the 6th. It's free. You can sign up. You may have an email about it from CABE, but you can also sign up through CABE if you're interested. So I think that's going to be, I'm definitely going to tune into that one. And then at the end of the month on the 25th, they have another webinar, again at noon, hour long, about the Connecticut Freedom of Information Act. So it might be of interest. Just thought I'd flag those for you. And I don't think I really had anything else. So I think if there's a motion, we can move into executive session for the purpose of Superintendent of Schools mid-year review and invite Dr. Britt to join us. That motion. Thank you, Kim. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Sarah. It's
No, not that.
20 PM. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Technicalities.